Straight shooters, all troopers. Yeah. Shout out to Big Bro Doug, already tapping in early. Y'all heard it. Big difference. That's worthless. Yes. What's good, everybody? What's good? As you're joining, please make sure that you like and subscribe. As you all know, that's going to help boost that unforgiving algorithm. We want to make sure. Hold on. We want to make sure as many different people join in on the conversations. This is all about perspectives, hearing different people's perspectives. So therefore, we all can get as well-rounded as we can all be as well-rounded as possible. Perhaps perspectives is the key to all this, man. Perhaps perspective is the key to all this. What was the name of this thumbnail? Hold on. What was the thumbnail? A Tale of Two Extremes. Perhaps perspective is the only thing that can save us. In this tale of two extremes, perhaps perspective is all that can save us. Too many extremes. Are the moderates going to save the day? Are the moderates on both sides going to save the day? All right, we got a long show for y'all. Nah, I shouldn't say long show, but we got a good show for y'all. We got a lot on the schedule. We're going to talk about some things that Nick Fuentes said. He's having a back and forth with Jason Whitlock regarding the Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony situation. We have Kevin O'Leary giving some of his insight and opinion on tariffs on the CNN panel. We're going to go back into time. Y'all remember the black? No, baby, no. Y'all remember the black? All right, whatever. All right, we're going to go back to Nancy Pelosi. I believe she's in 1996 in a video of Bernie Sanders in 2008, where they are discussing tariffs. So a lot of us may not have known, but Trump got his entire tariff policy from Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders. Oh, and there's a video that I actually didn't include. There's a video of Trump talking to Oprah. And it's like 1988, I think, 1988 on tariffs that I did not include yet. But if we get to it, I'll make a note of it now. So therefore, when we get to it, if we have time, I'll throw that in there. We have a video to review that Shy sent over. Shout out to Shy on Jonathan Majors. He made a statement that he's feeling worthy, or he felt worthy to marry Megan Good, and he had to work his way up to the point where he did feel worthy of marrying her. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we got some information on Elon and Doge. A lot of people have been thinking that Elon's been making a split with Trump. He's been going back and forth with Trump's tariff advisor, economic advisor, Peter Navarro. Called him a moron. Peter Navarro is for all the tariffs. Elon Musk, whether he's acting selfishly or this is just his opinion, he doesn't seem to be in favor of the tariffs. And he had some choice words for Peter Navarro. However, he did tweet a video of his son and Trump walking across the White House yard. So maybe that was just to show that he's back in line or back on the team. And he's being a good sport, who knows? And then, we're going to spend most of the time on this video of Jason Whitlock's. It's Jason Whitlock going back and forth with Nick Fuentes. But Nick Fuentes had some words to say about Black folk and whether or not it's culture that is making us commit more violence, or if it's just the Black gene, the violent gene, I should say. I don't know. I'm joking around a little bit, but he didn't seem to be joking around. So we'll start off with a couple icebreakers. Like I said, as you join, please make sure that you like for the algorithm. Shout out to Big Bro Steve in the building. Good evening, Dak. Steve and Michelle in the house. Hey, Professor. How you doing? Good to always see both of y'all tapping in. Gives me energy. So today, what do we got on the icebreaker list? All right, so what are we going to start with? I think we're going to start with, matter of fact, it's on the screen, so we'll start with it. So this is a professor. This was a rough one, man. This was a rough one. And I think the reoccurring theme today is going to be how extreme and polarizing people are trying to make us. And if we're not careful, I really do believe that we're going to find ourselves in a racial war. If we're not careful, we're going to get tricked into having perhaps the reverse of what George Floyd was, and who knows how much it will escalate. I do believe that there's a sector of this country, or maybe sector of the leadership, that for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, because it benefits them selfishly in whatever weird way they feel like embracing. But I think that a lot of people want us to be in chaos. A lot of people want us to go to war with each other. And like I said, it's the leadership, but I mean, it's the leadership. And I think the leadership is doing a great job of triggering people emotionally to getting engaged in a lot of these things that I don't think we would have these feelings on if we weren't getting tricked and manipulated and bamboozled into seeing the world in a particular perspective. And this video, I think, does a great job of illustrating that. So let's take a look at this video, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Have to grapple with it, because it's the snake, it's the beast coiled up in the heart, the bosom of the country, as Frederick Douglass said. And the fact that they are doubling down on this shows you what kind of human beings they actually are.
Say more.
We chose a felon who is more interested in loyalty, who's more interested in retribution, who's more interested in grift than in democracy. And we chose a felon because we didn't want to elect a black woman. So to read that, to actually explicate that, is to say we would rather destroy the republic than for that to have happened. And until we grapple with it, there's no amount of protesting I could do. There's no amount of resistance that could come into play to actually force 78 million people to grapple with what motivated them to put themselves in this position. And I have to.
This is embarrassing. This is an embarrassing video. And it seems like CNN and MSNBC do an amazing job of finding some of the most, I don't want to say embarrassing black men, but just hurt and triggered and emotionally triggered, weak, crying men that are totally delusional when it comes to how they see the world. This is what I learned. I told y'all when I had some conversations last weekend, and I really learned that people really do base how the world works based on their own individual experience, their own bubble that they're in, their circle of 5 friends that eats at the same restaurant as them, that watches the same TV shows, that think the same politics as them. People really see the world through that lens and are not willing to budge any other way. This man just sat here, a professor. This is a Princeton professor. Keep in mind, this is a professor at the #1 college. Definitely top, what, 2, 3? The #1 college, supposedly, #1, right? Princeton. The #1 college. And he's saying that the country decided, he's breaking down people's decision based on voting for a felon or because they did not want to vote for a black woman. This is how simple-minded, super intelligent people can be. He's too intelligent to sit here and think that the policies did not factor into it. He's just going to simplify it as to, well, they just didn't want to vote for the black woman. The Democratic Party didn't want to vote for the Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris's supporters, Kamala Harris's team have come out and there's been books that just came out over the last week where Kamala Harris's team is coming out talking about, yeah, Barack didn't believe in Kamala. A lot of powerful Democrats did not believe in Kamala Harris. People on your own team don't even believe on you. And this man is jumping out the window, racializing everything. This is what these people do. It's lazy. This is a lazy professor. That's the only argument that you're going to make. The only argument that you're going to make is that people voted for Trump. 78 million voted for Trump just because they didn't want to elect a black woman. You know what's so crazy about it? I guess, you know, it always goes back to that movie reference with Gladiator, the mob is fickle. Do we not forget that, oh my God, maybe this is perhaps the best DEI argument that you can make against it. I don't know, for it. Y'all tell me. How come it's okay? How come it's okay for, when was Barack elected? 2007, 2008 or something like that? It's okay for Barack Obama to be elected and for black people to vote for Barack Obama simply because he's black. Let's just be real. It is perfect. I was one of them. The people around me. Nobody knew about his policies. Nobody cared about his policies. Matter of fact, he's responsible for pushing this LGBTQ movement, something that was not very popular in the black community. Let's just be real. So it was perfectly fine for people to elect Barack Obama, to vote for him just because he's black. Nobody said that however many million people voted for him, it was a problem just because he's black. But then when Kamala Harris loses, after not even having a primary, after being one of the weakest candidates that the Democrats have put forward in recent history. Matter of fact, the fact that she got as many votes as she did, I think was very good. They did a great job. They raised a whole lot of money, a lot more than Trump, and they used it. Because if they didn't raise all that money, then this could have gotten very ugly. And especially when you look at the policies, you got one side, oh, she doesn't want to define what a woman is. The vice president puts tampons in boys' bathrooms. They're cool with the drag queens. They're cool with all these progressive policies that have driven California into the ground. We're going to vote for that for the country. Yeah, let's go that route. And then the only thing that y'all can say about the other guy is, oh, he's a felon. But it's not. But so the same country that can elect Barack Obama is now deciding that they don't want to vote for Kamala Harris because she's a black woman. All right. Y'all see where this goes. We're gonna keep it pushing. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this is embarrassing, Professor. This is lazy. You got to do better than that. You got to do better than that. And the fact that they only racialize everything that happens politically between Democrats and Republicans is the exact reason why they lost, in my opinion. It's because you ignored the actual policies and thought that you could just win with woke ideologies and a mixture of guilt tripping black men into voting for Kamala Harris and guilt tripping the country into being racist, having a racist history. So therefore you should elect Kamala Harris. And if you're not, then you're voting for a felon and you're racist. Like, come on now. Come on now. And Steve said, at least he got the Republic part right. Right. All right, let's move on to the next one. I think we got a Terrence Howard video. I think we got my man, Terrence Howard. So Terrence Howard's been taking a whole lot of heat. He's been taking a whole lot of heat since he first went on, I believe it was Valuetainment was the show that he went on. No, it was the Joe Rogan. So he went on Valuetainment recently, and he had some explosive things to say. Something about your boy Diddy. Yeah. But aside from that, he's been taking a lot of heat from the science community. This science community seems to be very cultish. When I look at how the science community behaved during 2020 with that thing that happened, and then you look at a situation like this with Terrence Howard, who obviously was not a career scientist, or I don't know what, a quote unquote, with the title career scientist, based on the things that he expresses, the knowledge that he has. I think that's actually a testament to him of how committed he is to learning a lot of these things. And I think it also shows that a lot of these other scientists are very cultish and very lazy in simply thinking that they could just shove him to the side and say whatever they want about him and discredit him just because he doesn't have the fancy degrees and fancy white papers that a lot of these other scientists have. So let's listen to what Terrence Howard had to say when it comes to manhood and playing the man card. That was something very big for him in his last interview with Valuetainment. So let me pull that up on the screen and get your guys' thoughts.
Listen, before y'all talk about me, y'all need to talk to me. You see, once upon a time, if a man questioned another man's honor, he didn't do it from the shadows. He had to do it out in the open, with his name, his chest out, and his chin high. Not hiding behind a keyboard or tucked behind editing clips of fair use disclaimers. You see, citing Section 107 of the Copyright Act does not give you free rein to defame, misrepresent, or harm another's reputation. Fair use is not a shield for character assassination. So here's the simple truth. If you take my words, my image, my ideas, and twist them to feed your fear and inflate your ego, if you profit off of my name while calling me a liar, then be prepared to stand behind your accusations. Because in the old world, men didn't hide behind anything when they spoke against someone. They had to speak it with their whole being. And if you're going to speak against me, then use the same courage that it took for me to say those truths. Man to man, eye to eye, integrity and in truth. I've spent a lifetime earning the right to speak with the conviction about these truths that I speak. So if you want to tear that down, have the decency to come and say it directly to my face. And say it like a man.
And I want to keep playing, but I want to interject very quickly. With social media and everything being online, and we always hear about, people having Twitter fingers. People think that they can say any and everything about individuals and them never be confronted. A lot of things that I don't know if, as I'm thinking about it right now, it's almost, I feel pretty confident in saying that social media has emasculated conversation amongst men in a lot of ways. It's become very what we used to call, and not to throw any shade at women, but very gossipy, very chatty patty-ish, where people just think that they can say any and everything and it never be addressed, it never be checked, just because you're never going to run into these people, you're never going to see them in real life, and people just know that they can say whatever and it never be challenged. Or a lot of people that you speak to, think about the media right now, people that watch MSNBC, people that watch CNN, don't watch Fox. They don't go to check a conservative outlet. And people that watch Fox, they don't go and watch MSNBC or CNN or check some type of liberal outlet. It's literally just become name calling, and we see it escalated in so many different ways, some that we're going to play in some videos later on in the show. But this is the pettiness that has come out. It's come out in politics. It's come out online. This is why, I don't know. It just seems that people are willing to do and say and behave in ways that traditionally we would have felt that you had to have more honor at. And what he's alluding to, I believe, is when you say back in the day, when you insulted a man's honor, literally you got to the point where you could have a duel. Are you calling me a liar? Are you telling me that my word is not my bond? This is what Terrence Howard is talking about. Now, you may not agree with how extreme he is getting ready to go, but there is something to say about how things have become and how freely people feel that they can speak on certain people, disrespect certain people. And aside from the disrespect, but just how freely people can speak on certain things and say it as certain truths, just like in the previous video, without actually, well, I can't say just like the previous video, that's a little bit different, but without actually doing any research, without giving any evidence, citing any sources, giving any reason, but just addressing more so the person's personality. This is what politics has come down to. Nobody's insulting the actual policies. Nobody's insulting it. Well, some people are. I can't even say that. But more, it's like name calling. It's high school name calling, who can say the best joke, or who can. It just has become very childish.
If you're going to talk about the geometry, have other geometries to argue against it.
Hi, my brother Dwayne in the building.
Supersymmetry, speak of other supersymmetries that would work against it. If you're going to talk about the white papers, provide your own white paper as an argument to argue against the equations or the conclusions. But we're going to do this respectfully, otherwise we'll end in a duel. And I mean a duel, real life duel, where only one person walks away. We can meet with guns, bottles, knives, or books and equations. But we're going to do this like men. So, get ready. Get ready.
I mean, he summed his feelings up. Need I say more? Now, like I said, obviously that's a little, I mean, what maybe that's a funny thing. I was getting ready to say, obviously that's a little bit extreme, but 100 years ago, I guess that would be the norm, right? Maybe less than that. I don't know. Now, this is just maybe another example of that pendulum swing where, you know, it's like things have gone so far over here to the point where people feel they can say anything. Now, Terrence Howard, he's ready to have a duel. If you say something about his research or say something or make it about him with a personal attack, that's what I feel that he's saying. He's sitting here saying like, hey, come to me. Don't just try to profit off of me or get attention by criticizing me, by downplaying me, by making it seem like I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. If you don't have the courage to actually have that conversation with me face to face, can't be mad at that. Can't be mad at that. At least I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I don't know if y'all are mad at that. All right, so let's move on. So speaking of the pettiness, let's move on to one of those petty videos that I can't front. I laughed at. Y'all, I don't know. Y'all may say the same thing. So the insultative nature of the keyboard gives many a sense of boldness that they would never have if the conversation were to happen in person. It's cowardly. I agree with you 100%. Y'all should see some of the comments that I get on like a YouTube every once in a while. Every once in a while, we'll have a video that I'm not going to say goes viral, but it gets a few clicks. And the stuff that people say, now I just laugh at it. It's nobody that I know. I don't take it personal, but I do think that it's more just the lack of productivity. Like it's not productive. It's not practical. It's literally just, it reminds me of people just at a football game and two idiots in the upper deck who've had too many beers just arguing and fighting over whose team's going to win as if they're actually getting paid or a part of the team. You know what I mean? It just brings about a very petty nature. And I don't think that is very productive, but this is where we are. And I don't know if this falls into that same category. So maybe I'm to blame as well, because I thought this was funny, but I don't know. You guys tell me. And please make sure that you're liking and subscribing. What
do you think of the new leadership, Jasmine, AOC, and Bernie?
I consider Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to be the leader of the Democratic Party. She's entitled to her opinion. I'm entitled to mine. As I've said about her before, I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle. And our plan for dealing with her...
You didn't plan that out. We got to hurry.
Our plan for dealing with her is called Operation Let Her Speak.
What do you think of the...
All right, so that's Senator Ted Kennedy. I don't know if you guys are not familiar with him. He's a funny guy. Like that's his style of humor. He jokes around a lot. I'm sorry, Senator John Kennedy. My apologies. My dad's listening. I said Ted Kennedy earlier. Senator John Kennedy. My apologies. But yeah, he's a funny guy. But I don't know. Is that the name calling? Is that the Trump stuff? I don't know. It would be nice. I'll be totally honest. It would be nice to get to a position in politics where the politicians are not doing all the name calling, and it's just about who can present the most intelligent path forward, the most practical path forward into solving issues rather than joking, name calling, and all the other stuff. Like Is it a big deal? I don't know. But when you factor in what we're getting ready to see, where somebody like a Jasmine Crockett, you know, some of the things that she speaks on, some of the things that she says, it just doesn't seem like our leaders are moving in a serious way. And when they're not moving in a serious way, it becomes detrimental to us. It helps build them up perhaps in their influence, but it becomes very detrimental to us. So let's take a look at this next video with Jasmine Crockett and some of the things that she discussed pertaining to pertaining to black people being done picking cotton. I guess that's the best way to say it. But the migrants, it's all good for them to be able to pick the cotton. So let's take a look at this video and you guys give me your thoughts, man. It's crazy, the people that are in control right now, the people that are influential in politics. All right, let's take a look.
The Democrats are starting to sound more like shock jocks than serious lawmakers as the loudest voices in the room step into the leadership void. Rising star Jasmine Crockett is the MVP of attention seeking, and she's defending the need for illegal immigrants with this shocking take.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
Democrats can showboat all they want, but at the end of the day,
it's beyond amazing in the worst way that Jasmine Crockett and AOC, just in my opinion, have become the leaders of the Democratic Party. This is how far gone the Democrats are. And this is what I meant and alluded to. Well, I didn't even allude to it earlier. I said it. A lot of these moderate Democrats that relied on the Ayanna Presleys, the Jasmine Crockett's, the AOCs to be pushing these radical messages and to be the most ferocious soldiers for the Democratic Party, to say and do everything, gave them a free pass. Hey, cause as much havoc as you can, say whatever you want, doesn't matter, we're going to back you. When the people did not respond in a positive way and supportive way in voting Democrat, and you see this still right now with the low approval rating of the Democratic Party, those same people that were gaslit to do all and say whatever, to change your accent, to behave like a booger if you're Jasmine Crockett, the same people that encourage those actions now have to figure out a way to put a leash. Wait, let me not say put a leash, right? Let me not say that. I don't want to use any inappropriate words, but they have to figure out a way to gain some type of control to get them back in line, to get them back. And now people are going to say, well, why black women got to be put back in line? No, Democrats have to be put back in line, and the extreme ones have to be put back in line more than anybody else. Gavin Newsom is probably the most extreme one, but he's smarter. Well, now I'm going to say that a black woman ain't smart. Gavin Newsom is slick enough and intelligent enough to put himself back in line, to realize that, damn, for me to have any chance of becoming president, we just lost an election and have our lowest approval rating ever as a Democratic Party, or one of the lowest approval ratings ever. And when you look at California, they're the policies that we've actually put forth the policies and implemented the policies that the Democrats have lost because of. Now, I know the Princeton professor said it was just because we didn't want to vote for a black woman, but if he opens up his mind a bit, then he would understand that a large part of it was simply the policies. All you got to do is look at California. People don't want that. There's a reason why people are moving out of California well before the fires. There's a reason why people are moving down to Texas, moving down to Florida. Those policies do not work, and they've run California into the ground. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. So let's I don't know. Let's hear a little bit about what they had to say on this Jasmine Crockett situation. But I mean, when you have somebody up here that's talking about we're done picking cotton. We don't want to work on a farm. Now, people got upset with Donald Trump when he said black jobs, right? People got really offended. Black jobs. And I said on the show last, what was it, Monday, I guess, the nerve. Do I need to bring up that chart again with black people being at the bottom when it comes to median household income? Median household income for the black family is $35,000, and Jasmine Crockett is jumping on TV talking about we're too good to go into agriculture, as if it's the cotton that was mean to us. No, it was people that forced us to pick cotton. It wasn't the cotton that's bad. So now we're going to sit here and say that we're too good to get into agriculture. However, yeah, those migrants, they'll do it. Those illegal migrants, they'll do it. Think about it. The Democrat Party is supposed to be the party of the people. They're supposed to be the party of the people, I thought. Stand up for the people without a strong voice, right? Stand up for the impoverished community. And your answer to that is to incentivize millions and millions of illegal migrants to come in and take these jobs that Americans are too lazy and too spoiled, bratish to do. And black people, out of all people, think they can stand on something and say, nah, that job is too good for us. We are at the bottom. When you have a country, and the Democratic Party is probably responsible for this more than anybody, when you have people at the bottom that feel that they are entitled, you've convinced black people that they're victims. Terrible combination, that they're victims and that they're entitled. That they're entitled to something. That combination is exactly why black people have not figured it out in this country and have gone backwards since the Jim Crow days, right? Right? We've gone backwards ever since Lyndon B. Johnson decided to implement these social programs that the Democrats claim that is, we care about black people. Let's just keep giving them stuff. Let's incentivize their women to not need men in the household and give them welfare, give them housing assistance, give them food stamps, give them all these things that they can't have once they decide to have a man in the house or get married. This is what has happened. And it's created radicalism and extremism on both sides. And moderates have been convinced emotionally. They've been triggered emotionally to join those radical sides because of their emotional hatred for what they think that boogeyman is on the other side. Moderates should be the majority. Moderates should be the ones steering the ship, right? If you're in a car with your family, do you want the most radicalized person that's out of control driving, or do you want the person that's going to, hey, we need somebody to get us there safe? Which one do you want? Who's driving the ship on the Democratic Party? Let's just be honest. Shout out to my big bro in the building. Big bro Rob. The louder voices often dominate headlines, and those are frequently the ones leaning into division and spectacle. They definitely do dominate headlines. And I can tell you that in my experiences, I told y'all, I was just talking to my parents about this. People have become who they say that they've hated. And I'm talking about the liberals and Democrats when I'm making this point, just this point. And I'll tell you exactly why. Now, I'll open up the floor to you guys to give me your experience, because I don't want to just use my personal experience to say that this is how it is across the board in the world. I'm not going to say that. But my personal experience is that when you hate something so much, it seems as if you become the worst parts of those things that you hate. Let me give you an example. The last two attorneys that I've met with. Now, I meet with attorneys because I help market with the doctors. The attorneys, they refer a lot of the cases to the doctors that I work with. The last two attorneys that I work with, one knew that I voted for Trump. One knew that I voted for Trump and proceeded to tell me that only an idiot would vote for Trump. Now, at least he said it to me. And I told him, I said, look at that. Y'all claim that Donald Trump is a bully. You hate him because he's an a-hole. He's a jerk. He's disrespectful. He's all these things. And look at what you just became. You think because you're the attorney and because I'm asking you for something and you have leverage over me in this situation that you can bully me in that situation. So you know what ended up happening? We did a podcast. And of course, you know, in that podcast, you know, when you're trying to act one way on the podcast, and shout out to Big Bro if he's watching right now. It is what it is. We didn't even put the podcast out. But I know he felt very uncomfortable when I mentioned, oh, wait, it seems as if you're becoming exactly what Trump is, because you're saying all these things that Trump did, but you're the one that jumped out the window and categorized all people that voted for Trump when you know that I was sitting right in front of you and you had leverage over me in that situation, and you proceeded to say that only an idiot would vote for Donald Trump. So you called me an idiot. Now, you would never just come out of the blue, or you would never just directly call me an idiot, right? If we weren't sitting down at lunch and you had some leverage over me and I was asking you for something, you wouldn't feel comfortable calling me an idiot. Your age, my age, you probably just wouldn't do it. But you used that bully mentality to become exactly what it is that you said you hate in Donald Trump. The last attorney that I met with, I go into his office. Within a minute and 30 seconds of being in his office, he doesn't know who I voted for. He's talking about, oh, these stupid people. How could you vote for Donald Trump? How could he? Has no idea who I voted for. Now, I guess some people may say, well, you're black, so I just assumed that, you know, he probably assumed that you voted for Kamala Harris. That seems to be an assumption of a lack of intelligence, that I'm not smart enough to make a decision based on beyond race, like I'm sure he would think of himself as. I don't think he looks at himself and says, I only make decisions based on race. So why does he assume that I do? Because people like that only see the world through their individual experiences, and they're not able to receive outside perspectives to shape them and give them a more worldly view. And that's what I see happening across the board. Some of the nicest, caring, and I'm not talking about the attorneys in this situation, some of the nicest, caring, and most intelligent people, when I have conversations with them and I'm approaching it from a more of a conservative side, and they speak of it on a more liberal side, I see them turn into exactly what it is that they say they dislike about Trump. And a lot of those arguments become circular and just emotional arguments about what you dislike about Trump, just his personality, not his policies. But I'm going to give you some examples on this show, because especially considering the tariffs, right? That's the big topic going on right now. So after this video that we're watching, we're going to take a video or look at a video of Nancy Pelosi speaking in 1988, where she sounds as if she wrote the Trump tariff policy, and Bernie Sanders doing the exact same thing. And the reason why I'm playing these videos is because these politicians, they play all of us. They manipulate all of us. They play all of us and manipulate all of us. And as much as y'all hate to admit it, as much as you may not like Donald Trump's personality, as you may call him he's sexually assaulted, as much as you want to say whatever it is, you may be right. But what you also know is true is that there's a certain level of transparency and honesty and bluntness that a lot of, and let's just be real, a lot of y'all just are jealous of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump behaves in a way that a lot of I would say my parents' generation were brought up to, you can't behave that way because you'll get in trouble, especially if you're black, right? So you see Donald Trump acting and behaving that way, and it just bothers you because you feel that you were never able to behave that way. And I understand that. But don't get mad at Donald Trump, because you got plenty of other stuff to get mad at him, I guess. But don't let one of the reasons is because he's a politician that's actually doing what he says he's going to do. You could sit here and say, I agree with what he's doing, but I just don't like the way he's doing it. Yeah. And every time that conversation comes up, and I know there's certain people that are listening right now that think I'm talking about them, but no, I actually have these conversations with multiple people, and it comes up in multiple conversations where every time I ask you, well, how would you do it differently? And what has happened is, it seems that people are more upset about the way that Donald Trump is going about trying to solve a problem. People are more upset about the way he's going about trying to solve a problem than you were upset with the presidents in the past who caused the problems. You're more upset about how Donald Trump's going going about deporting illegal migrants, going about shutting down the border, when Democrats, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and a bunch of others, their policies incentivize people to risk their lives, incentivize families to come to this country and risk their lives, knowing that they were doing something illegal, knowing that there was a chance that they could be sent back. But we're more upset about Donald Trump. We're supposed to just, it's so funny how all these people, you're upset about, oh, well, if Donald Trump raises tariffs, then we may have to pay more for a dozen eggs. But I don't see you having that same energy when millions of migrants come here and we're supporting them with housing them out of our tax money, feeding them out of our tax money, and educating them out of our tax money. And they're taking away opportunities and jobs from Americans. But I don't see anybody pointing those things out, that you got to pay more in taxes to fund the illegal migrants that are coming in. There's no consistency. There is no consistency. And I don't know if Maya's on right now, but I'm going to toot my own horn for a little bit right now. I have called Donald Trump out on this show for things. And it reminds me of Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly said that you have to be a good journalist. I don't know whether I wouldn't consider myself a journalist. I'm more of I'm a curious person who's not scared to give my opinion. I'm a curious person who's not scared to give my opinion. That's how I would classify myself. But Megyn Kelly said that from a journalist standpoint, in order to do your job correctly, you have to be willing to criticize people that you look up to and like. A lot of people aren't willing to even criticize people that they don't like. People aren't willing to criticize Jasmine Crockett because they're scared of what pushback may come. Willing to criticize AOC. People wouldn't even criticize Joe Biden, who was like, everything's coming out now. People were not even willing to criticize Joe Biden to the point where y'all allowed his legacy to be tarnished. I feel bad for him. The guy's got dementia, and y'all are pushing him to run for president. Do y'all understand that we almost elected a president with dementia? Nobody even asked the question. You know, everybody asked the question. I'll give you another example. Everybody complains about, well, Elon Musk, he's the president. Elon's really the president. Really? Well, based on some of the things that Elon has said recently regarding Peter Navarro, Trump's economic advisor, I don't think that's true. Based on Elon making it very clear that he did not want Trump to keep these tariffs up over the weekend. Now, he paused them now based on the amazing leverage that he created by using the tariffs, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Elon was not for that. Maybe that's why Elon put out that video today. I don't know. But it's funny how we'll criticize Elon and say that he's running the country, but I don't hear y'all same people that are saying Elon's running the country. I don't hear you asking questions about who was actually running the country when Joe Biden was president. When there's stuff that there's people writing books coming out saying that Joe Biden his cognitive decline happened long before they made us aware of it. You had the people around him, his team, Kamala Harris, all those Democrats, all those powerful Democratic strategists and politicians lying to you. And I should play a clip of I forget the lady. She's on there on CNN with Abby Phillips' show. But she's a staunch Democrat. I believe she was a strategist with either Barack Obama or I think it was Barack Obama, maybe Hillary Clinton. And she said that she feels like she's been lied to. But let's keep it pushing. I don't even know where we are. Let's go through this video a little bit and then we'll move on.
They are lacking that authenticity that makes President Trump a hit with the voters. Even Bill Maher gets it.
Trump really is one of the most effective politicians, whatever you think of the policy and him as a person. Always lean in to being more who you are. The people are not savvy about issues, but they smell a phony a mile away. Democrats have to come up with an alpha, and it's not Tim Walz.
Okay, Greg, why is it that only Mars sees that there's no masculinity in the Democrat Party and the rest?
We've talked about this plenty of times. I'm not even gonna play this. I'm gonna move on to the Nancy Pelosi video. We've talked about this plenty of times. The Democratic Party has allowed their leadership to be taken over by the black women that y'all gaslit. The black women that y'all gaslit. Shame on y'all. Y'all gaslit them into being Joy Reids. And now you're sitting here and scared to say, hey, Jasmine Crockett, you're bugging. Let's reel it in a little bit. Let's reel it in a little bit. You're scared to say it. You're scared to say it. You're worried about Trump having too much power. Look at your party. Your party has a terrible approval rating, not based on just Republicans. Democrats don't even like Democratic leadership. And what do they continue to do? They continue to lean into more of the rhetoric, more of the policies. I can't even say more of the policies because there is no policy. The only policy is, what's Trump doing? All right, let's do the opposite. Let's figure out a way to talk about it. Let's keep going. I want to show y'all this video of our girl, Nancy Pelosi. And it's funny, this Nancy Pelosi video, I remember her. I remember her being on TV. Nancy Pelosi was a good-looking woman. You know, not to say, but Nancy Pelosi, I remember seeing her on TV. I did not even make the connection like, oh, that was the same lady. All right, so let's take a look at this Nancy Pelosi from 1996 speaking on tariffs. And I want y'all to do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. As she's speaking, tell me if there's any difference with this video than the video that we played on Monday. I wish I still have it. I'm sure I still have it in my watch folder, on my watch later, whatever, my folder for the whatever. I'm sure I still have it, but with Trump standing up there when Lutnick brought him the board and he's going over the different tariffs. Well, this is what we pay China. This is what China pays us. This is what. Tell me if there's any difference of what Nancy Pelosi is doing in 1996. And then ask yourself, why do they hate Trump so much? If he's simply carrying out the things that they were fighting for in 1996, what changed? What changed?
Up this issue on the basis of economics, not endorse the status quo. As
Whoa. What's going on with the Wi-Fi?
I mentioned, it's about jobs.
Hold on. Let me reset this. My apologies.
The other issue, in addition, if intellectual property is a $2 billion.
Hold on. Bear with me.
But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation.
Whoa. My apologies. This video, let me bring up the video on a different, it's all good. We pivot. Give it a sec. Maybe they wanted us to hear that part. But the video keeps playing over. No idea. Maybe the Wi-Fi. It is what it is. Who cares? We're going to figure it out. Hold on. Let me get the video back up. I'm going to open it up in a different window. All right, here we go. Hold on. Let me remove that one. My apologies for that. I'm going to run it back. So you just have to hear 10 seconds that you just heard on repeat, but it is what it is.
Alone. Indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of you, each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president, in his statement requesting this special waiver, said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least.
Do y'all understand what's going on now? Do y'all understand what's going on? The politicians hate Trump for different reasons than the voters hate Trump for. The politicians used all the emotional name calling Trump. Oh, he's a felon. He's this and that. He wrote off his property for less money. Yeah, we get it. Okay, cool. They used all that to create a narrative that's different than what they're really scared of. What they're really scared of, politicians on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, are scared and intimidated of Trump because he comes in with a business approach to get stuff done. Politicians have a totally different mindset. Their job is to keep kicking the can down the road, because once you solve something, you solve yourself out of a job. Donald Trump is coming in and he has the courage to do all the things that Nancy Pelosi said needed to be done, very passionately, if I may add, in 1996. This board, look at it. Let's start at the top. Average U.S., I'm sorry, I can't really read it. Tariff on Chinese goods. Average U.S. manufacturing tariff on Chinese goods, 2%. That means the U.S. was charging China 2% to sell their products to Americans. Meanwhile, China was charging the U.S. companies 35%. She even used the word reciprocal, which is exactly what Trump's tariff plan is called, reciprocal, and he didn't even go to reciprocal. We showed y'all the video. I wish I could go back and show y'all the video. I can't find it, of him standing outside Howard Lutnick, and he's going by and he's saying, yeah, you know, they're charging us X, but you know, we're not going to go X. We're going to go half of X. You know, we're going to be nice to some countries. Look at the exports. Percentage of U.S. exports allowed in China, 2%. Percentage of Chinese exports allowed in the U.S., 33%. China is smart enough to protect their businesses, to protect their economy, while the U.S. has continued to, I say it all the time. You know what the U.S. is? The U.S. to the rest of the world is what Black America is to America. The U.S. to the rest of the world. Matter of fact, let me be very clear. The U.S. to China is what Black people, what Black Americans are to the rest of America. We spend a whole lot of money. And the majority, I'm not going to say all, the majority of the money that Black people spend is in different communities. It's not within the Black community. Our dollar, when we look at how the dollar circulates among the different demographics, when it comes to Black people, our dollars, we spend it before we even get it. And it leaves the community. That's exactly what America does when it comes to China. We are consumers. We don't sell. All we do, they sell us all their products, but they won't allow us to sell their products. And we think that that makes sense. And we're mad at Trump for saying, listen, to solve this long-term problem, there may be a little bit of hurt. But if you don't want the hurt now, it's going to happen later. If you don't want to work out in your 20s, if you don't want to work out in your 30s, then when you're 40 and 50, and the person that's been working out consistently the entire time, they're not having a lot of the issues that you have. And they have already developed certain habits to where it's not as hard for them to get up and walk. It's not as hard for them to get up and go to the gym. Because all you were thinking about was the short term. You didn't have the discipline and courage. At least Trump, now you may sit here and say, and you'd be right in saying that Donald Trump said day one, prices would come down. I don't know why he said it. It was wrong. It is what it is. I don't need to defend that. However, what he's doing and saying right now, at least he's willing to say, yo, there may be a little bit of hurt. We need y'all to bear with this short term. So therefore, long term, we will have more success. We will have more jobs in America. We will create the greatest economy, which the American economy should be. There's no excuse. We have the biggest economy. We spend the most, but I wouldn't say we have the greatest. We're in $36 trillion worth of debt. This is a terrible position that we're in. And now look at what Trump's doing. What a lot of people may not even realize, and what's been happening with the tariffs, when he charged China those tariffs, all those other countries, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, right? What did they do? They saw the opportunity. They're like, yo, Trump got the courage to do it. Then we got the courage to say, you know what? Hey, Trump, all those products that China was making for y'all, we got factories. We got people. We'll make them for you. Trump is creating a long-term play. I'm going to tell y'all what the Democrats fear and what a lot of Republicans fear as well. See, the politicians are hoping that this doesn't work. I don't think that the people that voted Democrat are hoping that it doesn't work. I think that y'all root against Trump and hate Trump, but it's hard for me to believe that the people that I respect, that I have conversations with, that I may not just see politics the same way. It's cool, but it's hard for me to think that the people that I respect are really rooting for the country to fail just because they hate Trump. I hope that that's not the case. Maybe that's an ignorant take on my end. Cool. Maybe that's me being naive. Cool. But I just can't bring myself to believe in that people just, that the people, I'm talking about the people, just want the country to fail just because they hate Trump so much. Now, the politicians, they definitely do. The Democratic politicians and a lot of Republican politicians, they'll never say it. The Democrats just are going to say it. The Republican politicians aren't going to say it, but they want Trump to fail as well. If Trump is able to, what Trump did with the border, and if Trump is able to figure out this tariff situation, and if he's eventually able to put an end to these wars, which he already said that he would do, hasn't done, Trump is going to go down as the greatest president of all time. Hear what I just said. Donald Trump is going to go down as the greatest president of all time. And you know why he's going to go down as the greatest president of all time? I'm not saying he's the greatest politician. I'm not saying he's the greatest person, but simply because he just has the courage and audacity to do what all these other politicians were just scared to do. What Nancy Pelosi is clearly on TV saying that she'll do it. And that's what happens. Everybody pushes these things to do, like a Nancy Pelosi. But then when they actually get in a position to make an influence on it, they don't implement it. Donald Trump does not care. He's aiming to be the greatest president in American history. He's not fazed by what politicians say about him. He's had people talking about him his entire career in business, people saying this, people saying that. There's nothing you can say about him. He doesn't move with the delicate mindset that a lot of these other politicians have. Just in my opinion. So now, if Donald Trump's able to get this tariff thing together, if he's able to figure out this deficit that she's talking about, just look at this part of the chart. Look at where it says 10 million. Do y'all understand? Like, are we understanding what is happening here? The amount of products that we buy from China, based on what we purchase from China, they are able to create 10 million jobs. This is in 1996. They're able to create 10 million jobs. The US only creates 170,000 jobs based on trading with China and selling products to China. Let's keep going. Let's let Nancy continue to talk about these Trump tariffs.
Imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And one of the reasons that it is because well, first let me just make another point, and that is that our colleagues on the other side of this issue will say the trade with China, exports to China have increased 3 times in the last 10 years. They have. But they fail to mention that imports from China have increased 11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit.
Let's go back to it. Exports to China grew 3 times. Let's clap for that. While the imports from China grew 11 times. This is why Canada, when they created their tariff system, it wasn't about the tariffs, because we all know by now, I hope we know by now, that it's a quota-based tariff system. So when Canadian leadership, their foreign minister, when they're talking about, well, America has never even hit the quota to be charged these tariffs. Yeah, that's because they relied on processors to control the amount of products that can come in from America, and they work hand in hand with the Canadian farmers. So clearly they're going to look out for the Canadian farmers in their own economy. And I say clearly because it seems to be clear for other countries, but when it comes to America, we don't seem to think like that. So you had processors. So let me be clear on and explain it. Where grocery stores, whoever, you can just order products from Canada, right? If you're in America, you order products from Canada. With Canada, they couldn't do that. They had to go through these processors. So the stores in Canada had to actually go through processors. So a lot of people, when they talk about the, I forget the CASMA or ASMA, where it's America, Mexico, Canadian deal, the one that Trump signed into office, and he touted as one of the greatest programs. The problem was not the program. The problem was that the Canadians were controlling and limiting to where America could never hit the quotas. They couldn't come close to the quotas because the processors were preventing them from bringing products in. And it's not me that's saying that. A panel that represents both sides, they found Canada guilty of this. And you know what Canada did? I think it came to about 50%. Now they relied on processors, and then they allowed the other 50% to just be able to, free trade, I guess you would call it, or to be able to just order directly with the American companies and not have to go through the processors. But they still had about 50%, to my understanding. I'm not sure the exact number, but about 50% that still had to go through the processors. While meanwhile, in America, you could just order freely from Canada. Do not let these politicians fool us. I'm so glad that now we have access to this technology, because think about if this was 30 years ago. Think about if this was 1996. In 1996, they didn't bring up videos. They didn't have YouTube where they could just bring up videos from 30 years ago to call out the hypocrisy in a lot of these candidates. They didn't have that. And if you're sitting at home and you're still figuring out a way, finding a way to squirm and find out, oh, well, it's still bad, I just don't like the tariffs. what do you suggest? What do you suggest? What type of individual are you? Are you an individual that believes that you want to leave the world a better place for the next generation, that you want to leave your country, that you have so much privilege to be in, so much opportunity to be in the greatest country in the world? And that's another thing. We allow all these people to talk about America, to even people that live in other countries. I was having a conversation with my parents the other day about this. A lot of these people that come into America and create these riots or whatever else, these protests, the things that they're protesting in America, they wouldn't even be allowed to protest. Like they wouldn't even be allowed to protest in the countries that they're from. They complain America's this and that to the LGBTQ for this group, for that group. Yeah, you get killed over there. Who is making us, who is creating a virus on our team? If y'all have ever been on a basketball team or football team, there's always that, what can hold a team back the most, just in my experience, are certain players on the team that feel that they should be playing or feel that they're better than the starters or they're not playing for whatever reason. They create a cancer on the team to cause division, to make other players on the team miserable because they're miserable. And that's exactly what a lot of these politicians have done. They're trying to create misery. They're trying to create misery for whatever reason. And we don't even look at it from the standpoint, we're more concerned with how much we pay in eggs for the next 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or year even if it means getting America back on track and providing more and more factory manufacturing jobs, agriculture jobs, providing all of these things and helping America, stimulating the economy, increasing the value of our dollar, lowering inflation, and creating a better country for our future generations. But we're more concerned about how much eggs cost the next 2 months. Short-minded people that can only think short-term, are not successful. People that can only think short term are not successful. At least there's no consistency. There's no discipline. There's no commitment. There's no weathering the storm. Everything is short term. I said it the other day and I'll say it again. There is no Ozempic approach to fixing this economy. You can't just go to the doctor and get a liposuction and put fat in your butt, and you got to go to the gym. It's going to take a while. You got to commit. You got to go through some pain. You may have to suffer a little bit. And it's the people that are willing to sacrifice that end up with a greater return in the end. And here we're sitting here talking about the wellness and health of our country, and people complaining about how much they're going to have to pay for eggs the next 2 months. And I don't want to hear, well, some people can't afford eggs. Please, the people living in poverty, the people with the less money spend some of the most money on dumb shit more than any other group. So I don't want to hear about that. Stop spending on some of the other stuff for a little bit.
11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit. The other issue, in addition, if intellectual property is a $2 billion, $3 billion loss, technology transfer is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If you want to sell to China, your products into China, the Chinese insist that you open a factory there. They misappropriate your technology, open factories of their own, and then say to you, now we want to see your plan for export.
That sounds a lot like Trump. That sounds like exactly what Trump's talking about with China. They take our intellectual property. Kevin O'Leary was just talking about this. China does not play fair. Trump represents us. He's doing what's in the best interest of the American people. Meanwhile, y'all think Jasmine Crockett and AOC and Bernie Sanders and whoever else on the Democratic side, Kamala Harris, is for the people. We said it on the last show. Do we need to say it again? Do you not realize? Everybody talks about the tax cuts that Trump is doing for the millionaires, for the billionaires. Do you not realize that the illegal migrants actually help the billionaires and the millionaires because they can hire them for cheap labor? Do you not realize that the same millionaires and billionaires that we complain about and the Democrats convince us to hate because they're selfish and greedy and they don't want to pay their fair share? If they really are selfish and greedy and don't want to pay their fair share, then they should be wanting migrants to come in so they can pay them half of what they'll pay our entitled selves. Let's move on to the next Bernie video. Ooh. And Steve wrote, if Trump's tariffs work, it will shatter the illusion that income tax is a necessary component of our society. That's a fact. That's a fact. People don't want to admit it. People don't want to admit it, that Donald Trump is doing what the candidates that you voted for over and over, whether you're Democrat or Republican, were too scared to do. They kept kicking the can down the road rather than to address the issue head on. And there's a lot of people that are envious of Donald Trump having the courage to do so. Let's move on to, I think we got a Bernie video for you guys. Hold on. All right, hold on. Let me get this Bernie video pulled up. All right, I got it right here. All right, y'all take a look. Let me know y'all thoughts, man. And this is more of a shorter video, so it may not give as much context. So bear with me. I may let it play through and then explain a little bit more in the end and then go through it again. It's only a minute long. That's not it. There we go.
What they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America, because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street. People who are making 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, healthcare, pensions, throw them out on the street, because somehow, Madam President, we are going to create wealth in America and good paying jobs in America as we shut down plants. We move to China, corporations there pay workers 20, 30 cents an hour, and we bring the product back into this country. And anyone who goes shopping in a mall knows how difficult it is today to find the product made in America. But that is the philosophy. And I have to say, in that regard, the champion, and he is honest on this one. Senator McCain has been criticized recently for not being the most honest candidate we have seen in terms of his ads and so forth. He has been honest on this one. He is the lead advocate of unfettered free trade. And that's an also important part of this right-wing ideology, that it is good for America that corporations can go to China and bring products back into this country.
Right-wing ideology that corporations can go to China and bring back cheaper products. Damn. Damn, Bernie. So what's your beef with Trump? See, this is why they have to lie to y'all and try to convince you that Donald Trump and Elon are stealing your Social Security. But then it comes out, well, actually, they may not tax Social Security. And people are surprised. Well, I get it. You're surprised because most politicians say one thing and do another. But Donald Trump has been saying this same thing for a very long time regarding Medicare, regarding Social Security. He said he's not going to touch it. He says he doesn't want to. He said he was going to remove a tax on it a while ago. Now, I know that if it goes through, then it won't impact us. I don't believe it'll impact us until next year because tax season is already here. Or I think how things get changed. I don't know. We'll talk about that another time. But exactly what Bernie Sanders is complaining about, exactly what he's standing on, is what Donald Trump is pushing right now, bringing more jobs. Bringing more jobs here. Let me go back to the part where he's talking about the insurance real quick.
What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom.
Hold on. He's being sarcastic, so I'm going to play the whole video.
What they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America, because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is...
The other side saying we don't need tariffs.
to allow
They're saying, forget these American manufacturing jobs.
corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street.
They want to get rid of American workers and rely on Chinese workers. You saw the chart that Nancy Pelosi pulled up.
People who are making 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, health care, pensions, throw them out on the street.
The people that are making $15, $20 an hour in 2008 with great insurance plans, right? Benefits. We're going to throw them out on the street to provide 10 million workers in 1996 to China.
Because somehow, Madam President, we are going to create wealth in America and good paying jobs in America as we shut down plants, we move to China.
What did Donald Trump say? He called out John Deere at a John Deere event saying, if you bring your product, if you open up that factory and leave America and put your factory in Mexico, you're going to get hit with crazy tariffs. Shame on you thinking that you could move your factory out of America to Mexico because it's cheaper for you to make the product. You can get cheaper labor and then think that you're going to sell the product right back to Americans that you just took jobs away from and not pay hefty tariffs. Bernie is saying the same thing. This just goes to show you once again, it's not Democrat versus Republican. It's not conservative versus liberal. It's what makes sense. What's practical versus what hasn't worked. What's practical versus what caused the problem.
Operations there pay workers 20, 30 cents an hour, and we bring the product back into this country. And anyone who goes shopping in a mall knows how difficult it is today to find the product made in America. But that is the philosophy. And I have to say, in that regard, the champion, and he is honest on this one. So,
all right. I wanted to show y'all that clip that I was talking about. I saved it. And went back to it. Or I found it. So a lot of people may be thinking like, well, Donald Trump, when did he start thinking about tariffs? If that was think about it. Bernie Sanders is sitting here saying that it was a right-wing thing to take away jobs from Americans. This is how we have to be so careful about identifying with a party. Because when you look back, well, the Democrats, weren't they the party of slavery? Weren't they the Dixiecrats or what? What wasn't Abraham Lincoln a Republican? But now we know the parties change, right? They party to switch up. This person, big government works for this group. It's like when you're not in power, you want more government to help you get in power. Then when you get in power, you want less government because you just want to stay at the top. It all goes back and forth. These arguments go back and forth. They're not right wing. They're not left wing. They're what benefits me at the particular time that I need to gain influence amongst the people. However, I have to say Trump has been pretty consistent when it comes to tariffs. So once again, Bernie Sanders said in 2008 that if this was a Republican policy, I'm going to show you a video from 1988, even before. So 8 years even before Nancy Pelosi jumped on and said what she said in the previous video that we watched. Listen to what Trump is saying. Listen to what Trump is saying. Where are we at? Here we go. This is on Oprah in 1988.
We let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it.
So what I want to start with this tariff thing here is Trump announcing Liberation Day that we are doing these reciprocal tariffs on all these nations. Subsequently, a whole bunch of countries dropped their tariffs altogether. And we splice this with a video.
Fast forward to the actual part. Let me fast forward a little bit. Sorry about that.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies, And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not.
Carly, it's pretty powerful watching those old videos. I love.
You got to say he's been pretty consistent. You got to say he's been pretty consistent. It's doing what makes sense. You want to know why? Because businesses, when you're a business person, you can't afford to be BSing. You want to know why? Because you can't print money and you can't rely on grants. All these nonprofit businesses that, or whatever else, they get all their money to support their business from government grants and government this and government that. That's not a real business. Or you could say it's a real business, but it's different when you actually have to rely on selling a product to a particular market and not getting grants. Business people can't afford to be BSing, to be kicking the can down the road, to be playing games, because they will be shut down, because it's their money that they're playing with, not the government's money, or as far as printing it, and not the taxpayers' money as far as us paying our taxes and them deciding what they're going to do with it. Let's move on. Where do we want to go from here? Do we want to break it up a little bit? All right, let's this is gonna be more of a political show. I want y'all to take a look at this this Kevin O'Leary video. Or it's not a Kevin O'Leary video, but matter of fact, no, hold on. Before we get on, I gotta show this video to y'all. Before we move on, I have to show this video that I was talking about when it comes to the lady that was feeling as if she was lied to regarding the Democratic Party. Let's hear it.
Chief of Staff spoke to the Journal.
I'm gonna fast forward a little bit.
Oh, he's an elderly man. He's an elderly man who has a very bad memory and doesn't remember anything that happened.
Ashley, do you feel lied to?
Yeah, I do. I think it. I hadn't been around the president before that debate, and I worked for Joe Biden, and if the people around him knew that he was not capable, it is unacceptable to me that they allowed him to go onto that stage. I deserve better as a voter, not even as a Democrat, as a voter and as an American. I do.
And I know that Joe Biden is a friend, but in this excerpt, the part about the pool, he went off, this is in the middle of debate prep, went off to the pool and he took a nap. And that was before.
So the book came out. This book came out, whistleblowing a whole lot of stuff. And honestly, shame on those people that wrote that book. So now they're getting ready to profit off of telling secrets about Joe Biden and his team and calling out how incapable he was, how much of a cognitive decline he had. Now they're getting ready to profit off it. Shame on those people for not calling it out in real time. Shame on them for disrespecting us as a voter base. Shame on, if I was a Democrat and they just threw Kamala Harris on me, I'd be upset about this. I feel exactly how Ashley was feeling, lied to. Now, Anna Navarro, she feels a different way.
The biggest debate of this
and the reason why I stopped the video, I was going to say, is that they said in the book that, I think the guy said that he was taken out of context, but the guy wrote in the book that Joe Biden was in the middle of like debate prep, and they tried to say it's because he was traveling, but out of nowhere in the middle of debate prep, he just went out to the pool and just took a nap. Now, that may be some people just need a break every now and then. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, yo, I hear all this, like I'm good. This is how I prepare, like I'm good. Like I don't think that was the case with Joe Biden. I think it was more so what we see when he goes back to Delaware and he's laying on the beach and, the guy's like just knocked out, looks like he's in a coma. When he's just, all right, let's keep going.
And that was before the biggest debate of this campaign. That's not even the governance of the country. So Joe Biden, maybe he has the best intentions. I'm sure that you believe that. But the right decision, it seems pretty unequivocally, is that he should not have run for re-election.
Look, I was also just texting with Ron Klein, and who vehemently says he was taken out of context. I'll tell you my experience, which is what I can talk about. I've known Joe Biden for over 25 years. Certainly, the Joe Biden today is not the Joe Biden of 5 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 25 years ago. It's not. But also, I will tell you, and I think that comes out also in the book and the excerpt that I read, something clearly happened that day, around those days, that was not the case the day after. I saw Joe Biden 24 hours after that debate here in New York. He was a completely different person. I saw Joe Biden when he came to The View after he dropped out. And he was a completely different person than what we saw at that debate. What happened around those days? I don't know. And can I tell you something? I don't care, because I want to talk about the future and how we fight Donald Trump and how we get rid of Donald Trump.
What are we fighting? Like, what are we fighting? Why do all these, I'm just going to say it, why do all these women want to fight? And I can't even say it's just the women, because it's the guys too, but it's like, what? I just feel like, and let me be very clear. When I say why do all these women want to fight, it seems as if the Democratic Party used women. I'm not saying that women can't fight, women can't stand up for themselves politically, women can't hold their own. Not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that the Democratic Party played y'all. They played women. They used women just like they've used any other group. They used the LGBTQ, used the feminist movement, used Black Lives Matter. They use people. It's politics. This is nothing new. She's sitting here defending this man, saying, I don't know what happened during those 2 days, but that was just, he's not like, she's still defending him. Now she don't want to talk about Joe Biden. She want to talk about the future.
Completely different person. He did the Stephanopoulos debate interview to try to save him. He did your show to try to save him. He just, he's the guy's in his mid-80s. I'm not faulting him. He just wasn't the Joe Biden who was elected 4 years before.
He wasn't the one.
And his family should have pulled the plug.
I said that.
Well, they should have, and so should his advisors. I mean, talk about a big cover-up. I mean, we've been talking a lot about Donald Trump lately. I just want to ask a simple question. Who in the heck was running the country? If the president's mental acuity was in question and some days he's on and some days he's off, was the guy really capable of doing the job day to day? I honestly really question that. And I think a lot of Democrats.
Yeah, who signed those pardons? And now Fauci, I just saw a video of Fauci the other day jumping out here talking about it. Who signed the pardons? And we got to eventually talk about that. They signed pardons. Here they give pharmaceutical companies. And this is what I don't understand. I'm sorry, like the hypocrisy amongst a lot of Democrats, I just got to call it out. You may not like conservatives. You may think they're a-holes, but it seems to be a little bit more consistency on that end. Literally, you saw the situation with Luigi Mangione. Now, if you had to say which side more Democrats were on compared to which side the Republicans were more on, it seemed as if the liberals were more so understanding of Luigi and his situation. That's what it seemed like to me. You got comedians like Bill Burr coming out of here, and I think we got a video saved from that, talking about free Luigi. Man just shot somebody in cold blood, but people excused it because the insurance company and healthcare is so bad. Now, y'all know me. I talk about healthcare all the time. I can't stand the healthcare industry. I can't stand it. I've worked in it. I pick and choose who I work with, but it is a terrible industry. And it takes advantage of the weakest and most vulnerable and scared people. It really does. Now, are there exceptions? Of course. But I'm talking about overall. So here you had more of the liberals supporting the Democratic side in one regard. But then when you have a situation where we're talking about, hold on, damn, I lost my kind of train of thought. Ah, man, I lost my train of thought. Hold on, it's gonna come back. I'm gonna play a little bit more of his, and then it's gonna come back. But what I was, let me try to, I'm trying to speak it out. You got the liberals supporting. Oh, I got it. I told you I was gonna get it. We're talking about Fauci. Y'all know I go off on these tangents. So here you got the Democrats and liberals supporting Luigi for or more understanding, more empathetic, more sympathetic for him standing against the healthcare industry. Okay, cool. But then when it came to Fauci, and you know that the pharmaceutical companies, there's a when the pharmaceutical companies, I'm drawing a blank on the word, but they pretty much they don't have to accept responsibility. Like you can't sue them when they put out the V word, the vaccine. I'd say it, whatever. When they put out a vaccine, you can't sue them, right? It's some type of thing where it's an emergency vaccine where they can't be held liable, right? So you got the same people that are saying that they hate the healthcare industry. I mean, the insurance companies, right? But then they're supporting the fact that a president pardoned he pardoned Fauci before Fauci was even Fauci wasn't even accused of a crime. He wasn't convicted. Like he wasn't convicted, but they pardoned Fauci, and they're in support of pharmaceutical companies having no liability. So the pharmaceutical companies have no liability. Fauci has no liability. But then you want to support the guy that killed the CEO of the healthcare company because they're evil. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's not consistent. It's not consistent. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent. My apologies.
Democrats who said at the time, oh, Joe Biden is the fittest guy in the world. He could do backflips. He could jump into the pool, run marathons, do 100 push-ups. When every freaking person who saw Joe Biden said, there's no one in hell this guy is physically fit. But they told us, don't believe your lying eyes because we're with him every single day. It wasn't true.
One more piece,
it wasn't true.
Just so people understand the other part of this. Ron Klain was talking about how Joe Biden seemed obsessed with what the world thought of him. Klain wondered, half seriously, according to the book, if Biden thought he was president of NATO instead of the U.S. Quote, he just became very enraptured with being the head of NATO. That wouldn't help him on Capitol Hill because, as Klain noted, domestic political leaders do not care.
All right, whatever. I don't like all this Biden bashing. I'm going to be honest. But y'all are responsible because y'all kept giving him a pass. My man said he was going to be a one-term president, a transitional president to transition into the next generation of leadership. Y'all gassed him up. And his family, shame on his family, shame on his team, because this is ridiculous. Now Joe Biden, we got memories of Joe Biden. We shouldn't have these memories of Joe Biden. We shouldn't have these, but this is because y'all, this is like Weekend at Bernie's. It's like Weekend at Bernie's. Y'all are holding him up, making a fool out of him. He's not in a capable position to run. And people just lied. And to the voters, I mean, you got to hold yourself a little bit accountable too. You know, you can't just go off of what people are saying. I saw Joe Biden speak, I think 3 years ago at Howard, or there was some speech that he was giving, and I'm like, yo, this is like something's off with him. Like he's not all there. But all good. Let's move on. I wanted to move on to this Kevin O'Leary video. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I should already have it pulled up. Let me see. Where you at, Kev? Where you at? Give me a second. Here we go. Got it right here. All right. Hold on. Oh, wait. Sorry. That's a different one. Hold on. Give me a second. Did I save the wrong one? Hold on. 1 second. Matter of fact, we'll do this. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find this. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find this Kevin O'Leary video. Kevin O'Leary, CNN. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. All right. Let me get this shared for y'all. Boom.
Scale trade war.
Look,
What happens if we go into a full-scale trade war?
Look, it's really ugly. This president won the election based on reducing costs, but he's enacted the largest tax increase we've seen in over 50 years. And you know who's going to pay the price? Americans shopping at Walmart, Americans shopping at Costco. We don't know the purpose of these tariffs. The only thing we do know is he's planning on taking tax revenue from Americans paying more at Walmart and Costco and putting that into tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans.
We don't know what he's doing with the tariffs. How much of an insult this is to the Democratic voters. Y'all could watch MSNBC, all the liberal channels, CNN, and I think we all have a pretty good understanding of what he's looking to do with the tariffs. Maybe this gentleman right here, Brendan Duke, should go back and look at what Nancy Pelosi and what Bernie Sanders said about the tariffs, and maybe go back to look at that interview that Donald Trump did with Oprah to get a better understanding of what he's doing with the tariffs. These people aren't serious. They're not serious. They're not serious. Now, you never hear Abby fact-checking these things or challenging the words that the liberals say on this show. But she'll call out a challenge of Scott Jennings. She'll challenge a Kevin O'Leary. But it just is what it is. To be totally honest, it makes them look silly.
It's totally gross, and it's putting us on the brink of a recession. It could cost us tons of manufacturing jobs as we get into this trade war. It's a really disturbing policy. I hope he backs off.
But Kevin,
it could cause us jobs. All you got to do is go back to the Nancy Pelosi video. I'm not going to.
and he said there's a lot of deals that they're literally kissing his ass was the phrase he used, very eloquently. Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never.
They take technology, they steal it, and sell it back to us. Isn't that what Nancy Pelosi was just saying in 1996?
The Americans stand 400% tariffs? What would that look like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Well,
I'm
hold
not
on
talking
a
about
second,
tariffs.
Kevin. Well, I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people,
Like, are you a moderator or like you bring the people on the panel because they're the experts, right? Let them talk, bro.
The average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe.
Who do y'all think creates the jobs for the average Americans? Who do you think creates the jobs for average Americans? We hate the elites, right? We hate them. Maybe the elites should shut down businesses. Maybe the elites that we hate should just shut down businesses and say, you know what? I'm tired of making X amount of money and giving the government half of what I'm making. I'm tired of, because I make more, I'm paying more in taxes, a higher price. Maybe they should just shut down their businesses and see what happens when they shut down their businesses, how people can put food on the table when they no longer have a job to go to. We always try to separate the people that are successful enough to create their own businesses with the workers. Maybe she should sit down with, what was my man's name from the United Auto Workers? I forget his name. I forget the gentleman that we had on yesterday, or on Monday, who voted. Let me actually get his name. Hold on. United Auto Workers Union president. It is Shawn Fain. So just so you guys, if you want to look it up, Shawn Fain, who not only voted for Kamala Harris, campaigned for Kamala Harris. He's the head of the United Auto Workers Union. And he's praising the Trump tariffs. He's saying we need that for leverage to bring back manufacturing in America for the common people. This is why it's like the Democrats are so arrogant. The leadership, I'm talking about the politicians. They're so arrogant that when they get the polls on their own channels, the polls on CNN, we're not talking about Fox News giving a poll and them saying, yeah, people aren't feeling the Democrats. It's a Democratic channel, a liberal. You can't even say liberal leaning. It's a Democratic channel. And they're saying that their polls are showing that the people do not approve of the Democratic leadership. Are they not listening to that? They say they're the party of the common folk. Well, the common folk are telling you we're rocking with Trump. They approve Trump at a higher rate than they do the Democrats. But the Democrats are still standing on these silly principles and stances that are the reason why nobody is feeling them now. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the goods?
Short-lived. There will be.
But what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive?
We don't know the timeline, ma'am. However, we do know that we're $36 trillion in debt because we've always been scared to, unless we have so let me get this straight. Unless we have a guaranteed timeline, we can't fix the country. That's like somebody who's obese. And I hate that I always use this example, but it just makes the most sense. That's like somebody who's obese, unhealthy, out of shape, going to their trainer and saying, I need a timeline. I need to know the exact day. Before I start running, before I start working out, I need to know the exact day. Now, any honest trainer would say, I can't give you an exact day. Like, I don't know how your body's going to respond. I don't know. You may have some shortcoming. I don't know how to say. I don't know if you're going to stick to the plan. I don't know I don't know. But what she's saying is that, unless we have a set day where we need to know how long, then we can't fix the country. That's what landed us in the problem that we're in now, ma'am. That's why we're $36 trillion in debt.
There's people right now who can't survive
400% tomorrow morning, cheese on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal.
What do you think?
Here's the thing, though. This is the perfect example of, I understand how it would benefit you, but that's not what the American people voted for.
This is always what happens. They get these Democrats to try to separate the workers from the owners. They try to the Democrats know that the only way they'll have a chance is if they turn off if they convince the lower class to hate the people that are successful and make money. That's their only chance. That's what's helped create this narrative around where in America, we'll say silly stuff like, in order to make a lot of money, they had to do something crooked. Well, does that also include hiring you for a job? Is that crooked? And this is what happens. All of these Democrats, these people that did not vote for Trump, are going to tell the world what voters voted for Trump for. This is not what people voted for Trump. Ma'am, you didn't vote for Trump, so how do you know? Why don't you ask somebody who actually voted for Trump? There's a reason why his approval rating is much better than anybody on the Democratic side. But let them tell it. Let these political commentators who are Democrats, Democratic strategists, whatever the role they're playing at the particular time. They're telling you this is not what people voted for Donald Trump for. Who do you know? How many people are you hanging out with that voted for Trump? And who are you to jump on TV? And why don't you tell us what you voted for? Don't speak on what other people voted for. What did you vote for? And why didn't the majority of the country align with your views?
They voted because Trump said, here's the thing though, this is the perfect example of, I understand how it would benefit you, but that's not what the American people voted for. They voted because Trump said within 24 hours, costs will come down.
Trump supporters, by the way, you're talking about.
Well,
Especially.
Trump said that and there were people in the middle who said, okay, I'm going to vote for that. He also said he done the.
Hey, ma'am, as a Trump voter, I'm good. I'm cool with what Trump's doing.
The wars, that's not happening. We still have supply chain issues. So I just filled up my tank yesterday. Gas prices.
This man hasn't been in office for 100 days.
Prices are not down. Rent, groceries, prices are not down. And when people are looking at what's happening in the markets and they see the uncertainty and they see their 401ks, I had to listen to my mom talk about her investments on Sunday, and she's nervous.
Oh, your mom's got investments? That sounds pretty elitist to me. The people that I know struggle and living check to check, they don't have investments. Thank God your mom has investments.
Nervous. I get it. On top of that, though, don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have a vote on a budget that is going to be also another series of cuts for the American people and a little bit of gamesmanship, as you were saying, so that we can sort of pay for the tax cuts for folks like Kevin. Then we've also got DOGE, and we've got the impact that the DOGE cuts and the cuts in jobs are actually having on economies around the country. So it's when you layer all that together. And I think what you saw over last weekend is people don't want to wait anymore. People are angry. I mean, we saw incredible turnout over.
Y'all waited for Joe Biden and we're getting ready to vote for him again, and then voted for Kamala Harris. And what did they accomplish? They said that the border crisis couldn't be solved with executive orders. Trump solved it. So what exactly, for all the Democrats out there, too bad Vons isn't on the show right now. He'd have the courage to say what he voted for. He'd have the courage to say what Joe Biden did for him. I'm just wondering, what exactly did Joe Biden do? What's your favorite thing about what Barack Obama did?
For the weekend, in rallies all across the country, we're seeing it in the polls. People are frustrated.
I want to bring this into real terms as well.
Let me fast forward a little bit. I left a timestamp. I don't even remember why, but let's take a look at this.
Moving manufacturing back to the U.S. takes a long time, but I'm still focused on two aspects. I mean, you have to differentiate the tariffs negotiated between countries, because the Eurozone just 48 hours ago said something remarkable. For the first time in decades, we're willing to go to zero on zero. That means they open up all markets to all products, all services. That's a huge win.
Oh, wait. Already? All that stuff, I believe he said Europe, right? All that stuff those European leaders were talking. But there were a couple that stood out and said, like, I remember hearing, they asked one of the leaders of one of the banks, I believe, it was a lady, and they asked her about Trump's comments saying that European nations have taken advantage of America in trade for a very long time. And what does she think about it? She didn't say that he was wrong. And the answer that she gave, it pretty much insinuated to me that, oh, they really have been. And there's people over there that know it. Listen to what he just said.
I mean, you have to differentiate the tariffs negotiated between countries, because the Eurozone just 48 hours ago said something remarkable. For the first time in decades, we're willing to go to zero on zero. That means they open up all markets to all products, all services. That's a huge win. So forget about Israel or Thailand or Cambodia. We're talking about one of the largest economies on earth saying, okay, we get the joke. You want to sell cars? You want to sell a Corvette in Berlin? We're okay at zero. We've never had that before. So let's call that a huge win. We haven't done the deal yet, but let's get the German people over here to start negotiating that. Agriculture in Britain will go to 0 on 0. Canada, we'll love to do energy 0 on 0. So that's a huge win for him. Huge. He hasn't even taken advantage of it yet.
I thought, Kevin, part of it, I'm curious from your perspective and everyone, if one of the biggest assets of a negotiation is leverage, if he has said they're here to stay, does that remove some of the ability for him to negotiate in the long run with these countries?
Well, I'm trying to...
Ma'am, if you're negotiating tariffs, do you think that it's smart for Trump to say, yeah, we're probably just going to remove them? Of course he's going to say they're here to stay until there's a new negotiation that occurs. There's the difference between business people and politicians. All right, so I had a whole... I'm not going to keep y'all up for that. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. We're going to save what I have on the rest of the show for Friday. That's what we're going to do. All right. Do I want to finish off with any post in particular? No. All right. This is what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up. We're going to wrap up. I wanted to get y'all out of here by 11, so we're going to wrap up. Let me... Where's my screen at? Hold on. Did I just... Oh, I'm about to say, did I just close out the live? I'm tripping. All right, so y'all know we end every show 45 seconds, clearing our mind. I think the main takeaway was to not get too extreme with it. It's politics. It is a sport to these people. Us hating each other and us being so emotionally triggered and engaged when it comes to these politicians, it's like these people that have bad weeks when the Giants lose a game. Like, it's like, yo, you're not impacted at all. Like, it's all good. You're still going to go to work. You're still going to get paid this week or next week, however it works out. It's all good. You losing sleep, losing friends, arguing, stressed out, and anxious over the Giants game. You're more stressed out than the owners of the team because win or lose, they still making money. So let's keep that in mind when it comes to politics. All right, 45 seconds. Breath work, mindfulness, meditation, manifest. Clear your mind, focus, whatever it is that you need. You take 45 seconds to do so. Release all this energy from today's show. Don't let this stuff get y'all. Don't let it get us upset. We can't, and I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, but let's not allow this stuff to get us upset. Let's not allow it to get us upset. Let's hope that everything works out for the best. Let's hope that we can stop these wars that are going on with all this senseless killing. Let's just hope that a year from now, a month from now, next week, we're in a better place with more Americans appreciating America, embracing America for the opportunities that it presents us, and just having a more positive mindset overall regarding this country. All right. So, and regarding the world, shoot. All right, so 45 seconds, you can close your eyes. You can leave them open. It's on you. I'm going to be closing my eyes. Every exhale, get rid of the negative energy. And every inhale, let's inhale all those positive thoughts, all that positive energy that's going to help us accomplish those things that we need to accomplish and hopefully get on the right track. We got Thursday and Friday, right? We set out every Sunday and Monday to make this the greatest week ever. Consider this halftime. Consider Wednesday halftime. All right, let's 45 seconds, ready, go. All right. One more. Exhale. Get that negative out. Inhale all that positive energy. There you go. There you go. There you go. All right. Y'all know what it is, and y'all know we come here to do. Elevate on purpose, both from an intentional standpoint. That means raising our standards to challenge ourselves to become the best leaders we can become and to accomplish all these amazing goals that we set for ourselves. It's going to take us to grow. Best way to grow, challenge ourselves, raise the standards. Let's raise the standards across the board. Let's challenge ourselves to make certain changes in our lives, to not get engaged and caught up in the negative, and to just live and rest in that positive. All right, strength and honor, onward and upward. Y'all know what it is when I say get to that bag. If you don't, I mean, focus on the little things. Focus on all the little things that we're going to do throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, throughout our lifetime, that are going to allow us to keep us on track for getting and living in our purpose as efficiently as possible, right? We got our goals. We want to get there as efficiently as possible as we strive for our purpose and that overall purpose of what we call purposeful abundance. All right. What's in your bag, you got to determine it based on the things that you desire in life. What's in my bag, the things that I focus on: peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and in everything we do, integrity. On that note, I shall see y'all soon. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Until next time, Friday a.m., 8 o'clock. Make sure you be there. Like and subscribe on your way out, and maybe even share the show with somebody if you enjoyed it, or maybe share Friday's show, and maybe some of your friends and family can tap in live with us. On that note, I'll see y'all soon. Ew.